saw yesterday, it was something going on, man. The Democrats were pressing for Kristi Noem to lose her job. Either she can resign, or basically she could have resigned or got fired, guys. Well, come to find out, they saying that Trump has fired Kristi Noem, guys. Make sure you're double tapping that screen if you're in the building. That's how you hit the like button. You can also click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. That's another way to hit the like button, guys. If you're on a mobile device, simply double tap your screen or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. Yeah, this is crazy, man. This is crazy. Another one for the record books, man. As Donald Trump fires Kristi Noem, guys, who they've been calling to basically step down from her position or be fired, guys. They was talking about impeaching her and all type of stuff, y'all. Y'all know ICE has been running rampant. Yeah, man, and they is most definitely on Kristi Noem top. Let's get into a little bit of what's going on, guys. Let's go.
With Kristi Noem on House Judiciary, she got quite a grilling. Congressman, what do you think of this firing?
Well, thanks for having me. First, let me congratulate former Homeland Security Secretary on her appointment to be the shield of the Americas, which I'm pretty sure the president came up with when he watched the last Avengers movie. So, we'll find out what that entails. But look, she will go down as the worst Secretary of Homeland Security since the creation of it after 9/11. I mean, she literally took the president's core issue on immigration, which he was polling at 60% in September, and got that down to 39%. She exceeded all expectations on doing that by, having 2 Americans shot, one in the face and one in the back under her leadership. They had to bring in Tom Homan and leave Minnesota as a result of her actions. I'm a former emergency management director for the state of Florida. She has completely destroyed FEMA, gutted that agency. She didn't make it faster. She didn't reform it. She didn't make it better. She made it absolutely solitary worse. And the level of corruption that I think we're going to find out when Democrats eventually take back the House and look into this is going to be staggering of the stuff that went on over there. So look, I think the country wanted a national divorce from her on biblical grounds, and the president is giving that to us. I'm glad he found his old apprentice self, by the way, and decided to fire someone.
All right, so how do you feel about Mark Wayne Mullen?
Well, I don't know the senator that well, but I will tell him he's inheriting a mess. It's a disaster over there at Homeland. I talked to folks in all sorts of different departments, and so he has his job cut out for him because of the wave of destruction that Kristi Noem is leaving him. So I wish him good luck. Obviously, I think there's an opportunity for him to try to fix the department, clean it up, reform it, and try to heal the country based on the division that Kristi has done over there. So look, we'll see what he does.
Do you think that's what the president wants? For him to change the department, change the policy, do things differently?
Well, I guess they could continue what they're doing. I mean, if their approval is at 39% on immigration, I guess they could go to 29%. I mean, there's always that opportunity.
Who would have thought that Trump would fire Kristi Noem, guys? Trump got her right up out of there.
The hearing yesterday was a tough one for Kristi Noem. What did you try to get out of her?
Well, I spent a lot of time on FEMA, being the only former emergency management director in Congress, someone who did it for a Republican governor, by the way, did it because it's a nonpartisan. We help people in their time of need. Disasters affect Americans. They don't affect just Democrats or just Republicans. And so I focused a lot on FEMA, the FEMA report that was supposed to come out that she's hidden and she destroyed. I focused a lot on the programs over at FEMA that she's destroyed. But obviously we wanted to focus on her credibility, which was completely shot in the Senate hearing the day before. She lied about the contract. She lied about Cory Lewandowski being involved in the approval of those contracts. I think she lied about how the advertising contract got awarded and whether some of her friends made a bunch of money on that, whether that was a no-bid contract. And I think she also didn't tell the truth, saying the president approved it. And so I think both hearings, both in the Senate and in the House, were a debacle. What's interesting is that you had Democrats and Republicans, right, in the Senate and in the House, asking her questions about this, trying to get her on the record. And I think the president watched that, and I think that was the final nail in the coffin.
My apologies, I don't have you queued up, but I do have your colleague, Congressman Neguse, queued up. regarding these contracts and specifically the one that had to do with...
Shout out to Libra for snatching that membership. Shout out to you.
The TV commercials that she cut and how much money she spent. I think it's my numbers are all getting mixed up. I think it's $200 million. Maybe it's $100 million. The contract was pretty pricey. She was asking how that contract, or he was asking how that contract was awarded and who this company was that got it. Let's listen.
You want the American people to believe that this is all above board?
Yes,
that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a
$143 million. Lord, have mercy, Kristi.
headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered apparently or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota. We all understand the argument that you've made, that somehow this ad campaign on Fox News of you at Mount Rushmore has led to millions of people self-deporting. You're using millions of dollars of taxpayer money in this way. It is fraud, and ultimately, I think there's going to be accountability.
He also points out earlier in that exchange that the company that got that first $120-something odd million contract didn't exist until days before the contract was awarded, didn't even have a website, didn't have a headquarters. If Democrats are able to take back...
they saying that's some kind of fraud.
...the House and the Senate, whatever ends up happening, is there a way to get that money back for the American people?
The answer to that, obviously, that will have to be that'll have to be looked into. It'll have to be investigated. Yeah, the company was so qualified to get the contract, they were only formed 11 days before it was awarded. No headquarters, no website. I mean, listen, the American people know that
fraud for sure.
Smells bad. By the way, the president thought it smelled bad also, which is why I think he was talking to Senator Kennedy. Said that he spoke to the president about it. Because Kristi Noem said that the president had approved awarding a contract to a company that didn't exist 11 days before they awarded it, and so. Yeah, look, I think there was a lot of stuff that was going on over there, but let's not forget, the two Americans who were killed in the streets of America at the hands of her folks. And I think that's also what Senator Tillis was trying to say. Senator Tillis was trying to say, like, look, you shot your puppy in the face, you then went and killed your...
Thank you, Truth is Out. I appreciate it. Thank you. For that 20. Thank you very much. Yeah, man, they got Kristi Noem on the chopping block, y'all. Remember, old dude, they wanted to impeach, to step down. She didn't do neither. Trump fired her.
Family goat. You wrote about it. You thought it was a teachable moment, and that's why you reacted the same way you reacted when those Americans were killed, and you called them domestic terrorists, which they weren't, and lied about it. So look, finally justice for Cricket.
Yeah, bad decision-making, bad leadership is what he said. I see you're wearing your Justice for Cricket pin today. Senator Kennedy just reacted to this. Let's play it.
I heard the secretary say that she went to the president and said, I propose to spend $250 million on television advertisements in which I am the star. And that the president thought that was a swell idea. That's what I heard the secretary say. From my perspective, her version of the truth and the president's version of the truth are decidedly different.
Yeah, he's calling her a liar there, Congressman.
Yes, he's called...
She lied. I mean,
Kennedy most definitely calling her a liar, and they saying that she lied. When basically they are speculating that what got her fired is when Kennedy asked her if Trump knew she was spending all of that money, basically on jets and those commercials, and she said yes, he knew, and yeah, the next day she was up out of there. So I think that's what they talking about.
I happen to believe the president on this one. I think she lied. I think Senator Kennedy asked a very simple question, and then he was surprised by her answer, and he kept pulling that thread. And she walked right into an accidental trap. Did the president approve it? All she had to say is, well, we don't run those things up to the president. But she didn't. She laid it in the president's lap. And so, yeah, no, I think her answer to that question is a lot of why we have the result today and why she's now the former Secretary of Homeland.
her firing, does that mean that the House should vote to reopen the government, to reopen DHS, to fund DHS back, or do you want to wait and see how Mark Wayne Mullen's tenure goes?
Well, look, I don't think it's a one-to-one where now that she's gone, it reopens. But I think it's an opening to allow the dialogue to start up again. I think we were nowhere so long as she was there. You're not going to vote for policy and then think that she's going to implement it. So I think now that she's gone, I think this provides an opportunity for Democrats and Republicans to get to the table, to figure out if there are policies we can agree on and get the department reopened.
Do you still need, I mean, are you going to get anywhere with those policies? Not just the wearing of body cams, but the taking off the masks, the no judicial warrants. Those are things that Democrats had wanted. Republicans were saying no, specifically, excuse me, to those last two. Do those negotiations still include those new measures?
Well, look, I'm not a part of those negotiations. Those are going on in the Senate, obviously, because they don't need our votes in the House. So that's going to be up to the senators. But again, what I would say is we should not abandon our principles or our policies. We should go when we should negotiate and we should argue for them. But I think this provides a fresh opening now to get to the table and reopen this for all the employees at DHS that are now not getting a paycheck because of Kristi Noem. They're suffering because of her, and they're out there doing their job. So let's take this opportunity. Let's try to get a deal, try to reopen DHS, but also try to protect Americans from the stuff that Kristi Noem was doing in Minnesota.
I'm going to borrow your time just for a moment longer. I want to play a little bit of you yesterday questioning Noem on Cory Lewandowski.
You've called Cory Lewandowski a special government employee. I understand what government means. I understand what employee means, okay? But I don't know what makes him special. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to answer on the record to Ms. Kamlager-Dove's question. I know you said it's garbage, and it may be, but I really think you need to say the word no into the record so that you can clear that up.
I think the ridiculousness of this and the tabloids that you are quoting and referencing are insane. And this has been...
So that's a no?
He has an advisor to the Department of Homeland Security, has no decision-making
you want to correct it, yes or no? You don't want to correct it, fine.
Decision-making authority,
Hold
no
on,
role in...
not a problem. According to one of the FEMA administrators that you fired, there is nothing, including contracts, that is brought to you that he hasn't reviewed. In fact, a significant amount of DHS internal routing documents has his signature
is on her top. I
above
told
deputy
y'all,
secretaries.
guys.
Okay, that former FEMA administrator wasn't fired by you, the secretary. He was fired by Cory. It was Cory that called him into your office. It was Cory that made him to submit to a polygraph test. The $100,000 spending rule that you created that comes to your desk, you're not even sitting at your desk. It's Cory who's sitting there.
There was also reporting, by the way, that Cory Lewandowski fired I think a Coast Guard pilot because when they switched planes, he didn't take Kristi Noem's blanket with them, only to rehire that pilot when nobody else was around to fly the plane. Does Cory Lewandowski stick around?
Well, as you know, I brought her a replacement blankie kind of as a peace offering. I don't know if Cory stays around. Obviously, that's a question for the new Secretary, Mark Wayne Mullen, and the White House. So I don't know anything about that. I didn't really even want to ask that question, quite frankly, but I was shocked that when my colleague, Sydney Kamlager-Dove, asked that question, that she didn't just say no. Right? Like, I thought I was giving her a layup. Like, hey, you know, your answer was a little muddled. Why don't you just clear up the record? Just say no. And she couldn't even take that easy question. And so, look, again, I think her performances in both the Senate and the House yesterday, you know, the president likes to watch TV. We know he's watching. And I think what he saw, he didn't like.
So they got Kristi Noem up out of there, guys. She was getting grilled at that conference as well, guys. Let's go. Hold up. Here.
And then September 29, 2025, Courthouse News, states sue DHS again over cuts to anti-terrorism grants for blue states.
Without objection, the gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much.
They was on
and Madam
top.
Secretary, you are almost to the end, so congratulations. I just have a couple of questions. Are you aware that the law that was written by this Congress makes it clear that members of Congress are allowed to, entitled to enter any detention?
Representative Crockett, I apologize. I have to run to vote in another committee, Secretary, and Mr. Schmidt will chair, and you will get extra 15 seconds, but I apologize for that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much
Mr.
for your
Chairman.
testimony.
Appreciate it.
Are you aware that the law makes it clear that members of Congress are allowed to enter any detention facility at any point in time in which they choose to?
Yes, I'm aware of the visitation and oversight responsibility, and we work every day to try to accommodate members of Congress while taking into account the safety of those individuals that
Let me
are being
be
detained
clear,
there.
at any
And-
time, correct?
Yes, I understand there's litigation in this area.
No,
too,
no,
and so
that's not
we
my
are
question. I'm not
facilitating
asking you
that.
about litigation.
No.
I'm asking you what the law is, because let me put it to
There's
you this
there's an
way.
appropriations rider that talks about
Correct,
oversight.
and appropriations
That is
are law,
correct.
because you are asking us to
Correct.
appropriate dollars right now for DHS, correct?
Correct.
And if we do that, you would take that as law, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that is what the law states, yet somehow, myself and another colleague, Congressman Castro, we ended up giving a 7-day notice to the Dilley detention facility because I had actually already gone to El Paso before. And when I went to that facility and I asked them why it was that they were requiring me to do something that specifically my branch of government had dictated was not required, they said it was because of you. They said you were the one that said that they were not allowed to allow us entry.
Oh, say it was Kristi Noem fault. Yeah, man, her answers to some of these questions is what got her fired, y'all. If y'all don't know, yesterday Trump got rid of Kristi Noem.
Unless we gave a 7 days heads up. Is that true?
The law specifically states oversight and visitations, and we are working to
My question
facilitate
is,
those, and we're at that
were
time
you,
working
did
to
you
facilitate-
give the instruction that members must give a 7 days heads up or not?
We had a policy in place that allowed us to get. the
Did you,
staff
were you the
to
one that ordered that
facilitate.
policy?
I have a responsibility for ensuring everybody in that
Okay.
facility is going to be safe, and that I have
Okay,
adequate
no, but that's not
staff
my question, because
to
the
conduct
problem,
a
let
tour
me
and
tell you why we
oversight
need
at the
to,
same time.
reclaiming my time. The reason that I'm talking to you about this policy, and you're talking to me about safety, is because I did go into the Dilley detention facility. And let me tell you, they're not safe. This is why we need to conduct oversight, because your people continue, in fact, you have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. That is your record right now. So I don't expect that y'all are going to be the ones that are going to be best to keep them safe. This is why we are supposed to conduct oversight and not wait for you to give permission. In fact, after I left the Dilley facility, we were informed of a measles outbreak that was taking place in that facility. And another question I have, are you the one that ordered it to be reopened because that facility was closed under Joe Biden?
Those facilities were opened with the new administration. I'd have to look
Okay,
and
you're
see
part of
if
the
that
new
was-
administration. Were you the one that ordered it to be open is my question.
I would have to see when it was opened, because I wasn't sworn in until 5 days after.
Okay,
the
well, this
president
was, it was
out.
reopened in
So I
March.
would have to look at
It
when.
was reopened in March of last year.
Well, then I'm sure that contract would have been renewed while I was secretary.
Speaking of contracts, as I have, actually, you know what, let me continue on this line of y'all.
It's on Kristi Noem top, guys. I'm telling y'all, they were relentless, man. You know, asking her question after question, you know, getting her frustrated until she started answering questions wrong, and boom, she got fired.
In the law. Are you familiar with a child by the name of Liam Ramos?
I am.
All right, so Liam was at this Dilley facility, and it just so happened that we had put in our 7 days notice, and y'all had grabbed him 6 days prior to our visit. So we were able to go and visit Liam. Are you aware of the court order that came down that released Liam from custody?
I am.
And are you aware that the judge said the case has its genesis in an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children? This court and others regularly send undocumented people to prison and orders them deported, but do so by proper legal procedures. Are you aware of that?
Yes, and I would disagree with the judge on several
I'm
points
sure you would,
in
but can you
there.
tell me whether or not
That
you have a law degree?
Father chose to.
Can you tell
have
me whether or
Liam
not you
be
have a
with
law
him.
degree?
If I have what?
A law degree.
No, I do not have a law
Okay,
degree.
and you do understand, because I can go through a bunch of court cases and orders that I disagree with from the Supreme Court, that ultimately, that is the order of the court. That is what you follow, and if you have an issue, you appeal it up, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. The court went on to say, apparent also is the government's ignorance of an American historical document called the Declaration of Independence. 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson enumerated grievances against a would-be authoritarian king over his nascent nation. Among others were, he has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. He has kept us among, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. Are you aware that he wrote that? Do you know that he was writing about ICE that falls?
Hey guys, we got to get the likes up. Double tap that screen if you have not. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen or click the 3 dots in the right-hand corner. Get those likes up. This is Jasmine Crockett basically questioning Kristi Noem the other day about, things that she has done concerning ICE, guys. It's crazy.
Under you?
The judge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I will yield, but I do have 2 UCs. The first UC is ICE training was slashed, records show corroborating whistleblower claims from the Washington Post on yesterday.
Without objection.
The second one is FEMA's response to Texas flood slowed by Noem's cost controls. This is out of CNN from July 10th of 2025.
Without objection.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to close it unless, what do you think? Okay. I would ask unanimous consent to put in the record a document from DHS.gov titled Illegal Alien with More Than 30 Prior Arrests Fatally Stabs Woman at Virginia Bus Stop. ICE requests Virginia authorities not release this public safety threat.
All right. So,
without objection.
So, yeah, that was Kristi Noem being questioned, basically by Congress. All right, here goes when they put the word out that Trump fired Kristi Noem.
It was, like 10 minutes ago that you were reporting that her job was in jeopardy, and now it's official.
Yep, President Trump has announced that he has fired the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. This is the first cabinet position that he has fired during his second term. Of course, the only other high-profile ouster we've had like this was when Mike Waltz served as the head of the National Security Council. He was the National Security Advisor. So President Trump just posted this on Truth Social. He said, "I am pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullen, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security effective March 31st, 2026. And Boris, just so you know, this is one of the names that we heard he was floating in these conversations he was having with lawmakers on Capitol Hill. The current Secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. We are announcing on Saturday in Doral, Florida. I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland. Again, this is a huge deal, Boris. This is the first time he is firing a cabinet member. He has been incredibly reluctant this term to fire, to shuffle any of his staff, any of his officials, because of the perception of his first term when he was in office, that it was a revolving door. However, as we reported, we were told that the catalyst for this was essentially this appearance that she made, this hearing in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, in which she claimed President Trump had signed off on a $200 million ad campaign that featured her.
A $200 million ad campaign. I told y'all about them commercials. Yeah, man, she got fired because she lied.
Asking illegal immigrants to self-deport. President Trump has now said publicly he
Shout out to Lovely Star for copping that membership. Shout out to you.
Didn't do that. And of course, all of this is amid the fallout that we saw from Minnesota, from Minneapolis. And there have been pushback on the Hill and from many of President Trump's allies that Kristi Noem was not the right person for the job. But many of them had been careful to walk a very thin line, not getting too far out there. But clearly, we are told now that this hearing put Trump over the edge in terms of his anger factor. Now he has fired Noem, replacing her, with this Oklahoma senator.
All right, Kristen, this is huge news as we are getting this, that Trump is replacing Kristi Noem as DHS secretary and moving her to a special envoy position, which is certainly a demotion and something that is meant to give her a little cover as she is getting ousted here. Kristen, thank you so much. If you could stand by for us there at the White House. Let's go to Priscilla Alvarez, who has been tracking this for us. What are you learning?
Well, I have been hearing from Homeland Security officials who are stunned. Of course, they had been talking amongst themselves over the last several weeks and months, anticipating that the secretary may be out soon, given a series of missteps that they perceived she had done over the last several weeks. And one of those in particular, or many of those in particular, are stemmed in what happened in Minneapolis. Recall, of course, that surge of federal agents for that immigration enforcement operation where 2 U.S. citizens were fatally shot by federal agents. And it was the secretary who came out in that.
She called them terror with the ist at the end, guys. That was another mistake she made.
Immediate aftermath, calling them domestic terrorists, something that she was grilled on during the congressional hearings this week, but that also shocked Homeland Security officials that she would so quickly draw conclusions.
Ms. D, I told you they was on her top heavy. They was trying to get her, either get her to resign or basically be impeached. So Trump just went ahead and fired her.
Over such incidents. And recall, too, that President Trump, in the aftermath of those shootings, had dispatched White House border czar Tom Homan to try to resolve the issues on the ground. It was the most high-profile rebuke over the course of the last year of the secretary and the way that she was managing the department and the immigration enforcement mission. Now, of course, the White House said at the time that she was in lockstep with Tom Homan, but it was also clear internally that there had been long simmering tensions there. So all of this to say that it had been building over some time now, what was happening in the department, the management of the department between her and her chief advisor, Cory Lewandowski, who was serving as a special government employee. There had been multiple concerns from within the department about the way that she was handling things, even most recently when she said that she was suspending TSA PreCheck, and then the department had to reverse that within hours. So this has been just a shock for a lot of Homeland Security officials who, even though they thought the writing was on the wall with her leaving at some point, the fact that it has happened now in the wake of these hearings just has them all scrambling.
Priscilla Alvarez, please stand by. Let's go to Manu Raju, who's live on Capitol Hill. Manu, I promised that at some point I would ask you about the situation with Kristi Noem and these hearings. Clearly, they were disastrous.
Yeah, and no question about it. And there had been a lack of support for Kristi Noem throughout, and a growing number of Republicans expressing frustration, concern, and actually, frankly, not even saying if they would support her continuing in the job. And no doubt that echoed at the White House, and President Trump clearly had some of those similar concerns as well. But I want you to listen to what some of the Republicans told me just in the last day about whether they would continue supporting Kristi Noem staying in that job.
Do you have confidence in Secretary Noem? Time will tell. Would you vote?
He said, "Time will tell, guys."
For again, if you had a chance. Time will tell. Do you have confidence in her,
I'm not going to answer that. That's not my decision.
But you voted to confirm her.
That's not my decision. If the president, that's up to the president. I want to be a team player, and I want to secure the border, and I want to enforce our immigration laws. But I'm tired of trying to explain behavior that is inexplicable to me.
Well, if you had
they said time will tell, the next day she was fired.
a chance to vote for her again, would you?
I'm not going to answer that, Manu. You can try 1,000 times, mate. Lots of luck to you.
Hey guys, can we get 17 more likes? We need y'all to double tap the screen. We need the likes past 100. If you haven't hit that like button and you're on a mobile device, double tap your screen. That's all you have to do. Or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. It helps out the channel. I wouldn't keep asking. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new, and most definitely double tap that screen, guys. Get the likes up. It's 400 of us in here. We only got 85 likes. So let's get the likes up, guys. Get them past 100 if you don't mind. Shout out to everybody in the building.
Markway Mullen almost certainly would get the support of a majority of United States senators to be confirmed as the next Secretary of Homeland Security. The Senate tends to look favorably upon its own. He has served in this body for 3 years. He's a former House member for about 10 years. He's a former mixed martial arts fighter as well. And he's also been a staunch defender of President Trump's agenda. It is unclear exactly when it was informed to Mullen that he would be Donald Trump's pick, because he did speak to reporters At about 12:30 this afternoon, he was asked about these rumors about Trump floating his name as a replacement. At that point, he said he had not spoken to Trump all week. And then he went, he was holed up in the number 2 Senate Republican's office, John Barrasso. He was not seen for some time. He left the Capitol without commenting, perhaps taking a call from the president at that point. So it's a surprise to many here, and maybe even to Senator Mullen. Guys.
Some fascinating color as Mullen leaves Capitol Hill, potentially taking a call from the president, refusing to comment about Trump considering him for DHS secretary, and just moments ago, Trump confirming that the new DHS secretary is Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma.
In our national lead, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is back on Capitol Hill today, facing bipartisan criticism for her job performance. Yesterday from senators, today from House lawmakers, both often focusing on the aggressive, many would say overly aggressive, immigration crackdown in Minnesota and elsewhere. One Republican senator giving her a particularly harsh assessment.
Madam Secretary, you are back. What we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Noem, we're beginning to get the American people to think that deporting people is wrong. It's the exact opposite. The way you're going about deporting them is wrong. I read your book last week.
Yeah, they giving up.
And honestly, some of the parts of it impress me, but some of it distresses me. And I'll give you a good example of one that does. The passage where you talk about killing a dog that was 14 months old. You decided to kill that dog because you had not invested the appropriate time in training, and then you have the audacity to go into a book and say it's a leadership lesson about tough choices.
And North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis joins me now live in studio. Senator, let me ask you, why bring up the story of her killing Cricket? I mean, I thought it was a bizarre story too, but like, you think it's actually relevant?
He did not like what she did with that dog. He most definitely laid it all on the line, too.
I think it's relevant because if you read and I would recommend people do it. I bought the book, I got the audio book, I read it for the committee prep, but she tries to suggest that a 14-month-old dog that's only halfway through what most people who train dogs, particularly for hunting purposes, is necessary to have that dog be reliable. So she gets angry at a dog that she puts into service long before it should, and then goes and kills it in the backyard. And before that dog is dead, she made a bad decision there. She fielded it too soon without training. Then she goes back to the farm, grabs a family goat, and shoots it because it made her mad. That is not. That's a thought process. So look. The fact that she acted precipitously on limited information, not really understanding that she had put something into a situation it was not ready for, felt a lot like some of the decision-making that was done in Minneapolis.
Like calling Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists.
Immediately jump into that. So she was rationalizing killing a dog behavior because it didn't perform properly, but she was wrong. She could have had that dog perform properly. Her then rationalizing that these were terrorists was the expedient. It was the easy way out. I want leaders behind President Trump that do the hard work so that they're preserving the Republican majorities in Congress and the president's legacy. She's far from that.
Well, one of the interesting things about the Preddy and Good situations is that she immediately came out and said things that were false, that we saw on video were not true. And
no credible. And look, the reason why I asked her who Tom Homan reports to, because I knew the answer, and she said he reports to the president.
Prayers for the families of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, guys. Prayers for their families.
Right.
If there is no better example of a vote of no confidence, is somebody who was in front when the Preddy incident occurred, and now she, who is the head of Homeland Security, is replaced by somebody for a Homeland Security mission who doesn't actually even work for the Secretary of Homeland Security. That's a vote of no confidence, in my opinion, by the president.
So your Republican colleague, Senator Kennedy, was also critical. He was here earlier, and he was specifically critical about a multi-million-dollar ad campaign that DHS ran. And the secretary told him it had been a competitive bid process for the contractors who produced it, and the president had approved of the ad campaign. Democratic Senator Joe Neguse questioned her about the contractor that made these ads, Safe America Media, today. Take a listen.
Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know, I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board?
And we should know one of the other reasons why people are so suspicious of this is one of the subcontractors affiliated with that contract is a company.
That got fraud written all over it, guys.
Company run by the husband of her former spokeswoman, Tricia McLaughlin. What do you make of all this?
Well, look, I mean, let's also, I was sitting right next to John when he was asking the questions, and I don't think people picked up on how proud she was of making any decision over $100,000 in FEMA across her desk and any decision for Homeland Security over $15 million across her desk. How can you go from saying that you scrutinize everything in excess of 15 millions and in the same 10-minute period say, I didn't know any of the details of a $200 million purchase? Yeah. This is somebody that is out of her depth and apparently only situationally interested in transactions over 15 million, except when it involves her family members or friends.
So one of the other things you asked for before you ran out of time yesterday, Charlotte's Web. You have been waiting for more than a month for basic answers from her about this. You're a United States Senator. Did she ever give you answers?
No, even worse than that. One of the reasons why I was angry is that an hour before, after waiting a month, I was told I wasn't going to get the data. I asked for anonymized data that recorded the incidents, the outcome, whether a person was illegally present or not, were they detained.
Just the oversight responsibility of the legislative branch, yeah.
She says that she's got a world-class law enforcement organization. I could go to a small town in North Carolina and they could produce incident reports immediately for me. So she either doesn't have it or she doesn't like what it's going to say. And my suspicion is that she had a very low success rate. In that hearing, she made it a point to reserve the first few rows with victims of people, family members and survivors, angel families, for people who were harmed by these people that I want deported. She was trying to say that but for her, that wouldn't happen. I think because of her, not enough of them are being apprehended because her and Stephen Miller are more worried about hitting artificial numbers that sound big. But when you dig below the surface, like I want to do with Charlotte's Web, I want to understand what their success rate was. And if they're successful, they should be moving heaven and earth to give me that information. The fact that they're stonewalling makes me really concerned with what I'm going to find. And if I don't get the information by March 19th, then I'm going to hold up more processes than I already am for Homeland Security.
Yeah, he did say he was going to take it to another level if she didn't respond. All right, so here we are with Kristi Noem, guys, basically speaking on her firing. Let's see what she had to say for herself.
Event right now. I'll try and figure out what that event is, but let's listen in.
Just thank you for that and know that we pray for you, that God will have his hand on you and your families and continue to bless you as you do your work. Listen, I'd like to thank everybody who's hosted me today. I know we've got a host of leaders that are here. We just met with Vince backstage a little bit and talked with him a little bit. Tony obviously has been very helpful. Michael, who is from the New York State, Chief of Department, Mark Ross, Craig Miller. We've got Craig Lally as well, and then the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police Recording Secretary Rob is here, and then Rochester Police Locust Club President Jeff is with us as well. But would you give all of those individuals who stepped up into a leadership position a round of applause for what they do to bring everybody together? Now,
this is Kristi Noem speaking on losing her position, guys.
State of the Union address just last week, President Trump reminded us of what it is every American's duty to do, and that is to serve the American people. That's what the government is to do, those elected officials and those that step up into public service, is to fulfill our duty to protect American citizens, that they should come first under our Constitution and our laws, and they should be prioritized, and especially over other people who are from other countries. The Constitution demands that we treat our citizens that way, and the men and women who serve at the Department of Homeland Security, they understand the importance of that, and we also understand the importance of all of our law enforcement officers and what they do across the country to keep people safe. The department was formed after the horrific events on 9/11, and just 2 years later, as Congress put the department together with the support of the president, 23 different agencies who had a nexus and a focus on defending the homeland were put in order to make sure that they were all following the same mission every single day. So it's a very diverse department. It not only has FLETC in it that trains over 130 different federal law enforcement agencies and officers from those agencies. It also includes CBP, ICE, CWMD, which is countering weapons of mass destruction. So some of you may have gone through some of those trainings to help us detect some of the threats here in our homeland, and also some of the trainings that it takes as far as responding to fires and 911 calls in different specific situations. We have intelligence agencies. We also cover FEMA. FEMA is a disaster response agency, but it also is the agency that's entrusted to run the government on our very worst day. If we had a tragedy in this country where we needed someone to step up because our leadership was not able to, that agency would be entrusted to do that and to maintain our critical infrastructure. So they ensure that they go forward and maintain our electrical grid and our critical infrastructure such as water and systems that we rely on every day to help the American people be safe and to still have their way of life. We also have CISA, which some of you may have worked with them, which is our cybersecurity agency, which goes out and not only hunts down bad actors that would attack us on our cyber systems, but also gives us mitigation measures for how we can harden our systems. All of these entities work together to serve the American people and to make sure that we're prepared for any threats that we may face, but also respond to them in a way that honors what our ideals are. The sacred duty of our government truly is that people are entrusted to secure the rights also of all the
Okay, so just want to set the scene for you. As you probably know by now, we just got word that the President of the United States has fired Kristi Noem as Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. Apparently, she was already set to give these remarks at 2 o'clock. She is in Nashville. She's addressing the Sergeant Benevolent Association Major Cities Conference, where she's talking about the impact of DHS and local law enforcement cooperation. But we found out that there was a live camera on her, so we're kind of standing by. We're monitoring this to see if she will say anything about the fact that the president has now fired her as Secretary of DHS, but moving her over to a different position. She's going to be moving over to Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas. Apparently, this is a new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere, as the president describes it. He thanked Kristi for her service at the Homeland and says that this announcement of this position and this new organization, he'll talk more about over the weekend. So we are going to go ahead and dip back in as the former secretary is making comments here about DHS and local law enforcement and the cooperation between the two at the Sergeant Benevolent Association at Major Cities Conference in Nashville. We'll see if she acknowledges the fact that she has now been relieved of her position as Secretary of DHS.
Chance to visit with you. I appreciate your wisdom and your advice as we continue to develop trainings and insight into how leadership can work together to make good decisions and to break down the silos between agencies so that we can work together more different, in better ways than we have in the past. And you know, we're seeing challenges across the country from judges and courts that are working to stop some of our efforts, that are looking to take away some of the protections that you need in law to do your work. And then also we're seeing some challenges from sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. In fact, after I get done sharing a few more words, I want to hear your questions on ways that we can help you do your jobs. If you're in a situation where the laws may be a little different than it is in other states, or you may have unique challenges that perhaps we could work together on to find ways to help you bring criminals to justice and to protect your community from public safety threats. America is the greatest country in the world, and it's the greatest country in the world that has great cities and great communities. Regardless of where people live, we need to make sure that they have an opportunity to go to work every day safely and to send their kids to school safely every day. Sanctuary cities do give us a challenge. because it makes it difficult at times for law enforcement to do their work. And we see that many times when a city cooperates with the federal government, cooperates with our federal officers, that it is safer. In fact, 7 of our top 10 safest countries in the nation are not sanctuary cities. They're cities where the local law enforcement partners with us. They partner with our federal agencies, with the FBI, DEA, ATF, CBP, ICE, and our operations. And we've also seen across the country where 5 of our 10 most crime-ridden cities do not cooperate with us, where those that are not cooperative with federal officers will see challenges on their streets. We've seen a lot of different situations from city to city. The one thing I would encourage you that no matter how frustrated you may be with some of that we can find a way to work together to do some good work for our people. In fact, even in Memphis, where we saw different leadership, we had different parties in the governorship and in the mayor, we still were able to arrest and bring to justice over 2,600 criminals, and in a way that significantly dropped their crime rate and significantly helped those communities continue to take those public safety threats off the streets. We got over 150 different illegal sex offenders off of the street. We saw one of those arrests included a criminal illegal alien from Venezuela that was convicted of aggravated criminal assault and abuse of a child. I'm thankful that that individual is no longer on the streets because of the cooperation of those local law enforcement. We have agreements across the country called 287G agreements. I'm sure you're familiar with them, but there is 3 different models that are available. One is a jail model that helps us with some detention. The other is a warrant service officer model that is extremely helpful for us to make sure that we can take jurisdiction or of an individual who's a criminal in the safety of an environment of a courthouse or a
Shout out to Maddie for being a member for the last 12 months. Shout out to you.
Jail, and they can be turned over to ICE so that we have the ability to return them back home. And the other model would be in the task force model, which I hope many of you have the opportunity to cooperate with us in, where we can use our different authorities to go out and go after the worst of the worst, those targeted operations that go after violent offenders and criminal offenders, and that we can bring them to justice and get them out of your city and your state. We've seen that program go from before President Trump was in office to only 135 of those agreements across the country signed, to now we have over 1,400 of them in place. And it's been very beneficial to make sure that we've removed over 400,000 criminal offenders out of this country. We've seen 3 million people leave our country that were here illegally, but over 750,000 of them were arrested.
Thank you, Maddie, for that 10. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And detained and removed. We'd much rather prefer that they volunteer to go home and that it can be a volunteer situation. But if not, if people are here illegally and committing crimes, we want to make sure we're able to detain them and get them out of your communities before we create more victims in the United States. I'm grateful for the work that you do because it's made a difference across this country. This last year, we've seen our murder rate in the United States of America drop to the lowest level since it's ever been recorded. And we've recorded our murder rate across the country for 125 years. And this year, we broke the record for the lowest murder rate in the country. And that's because of the work of individuals in this room and the individuals that we've been able to partner with.
Talk about getting fired.
We've also taken 1.7 billion lethal doses of drugs off our streets and stopped them from coming into the United States. That means 1.7 billion people will still be with us because of the work that our agencies and our work has done. Our Coast Guard is an important asset in the Department of Homeland Security, and they've worked with us, and maybe have worked with some of you in the room as well, to help interdict those drugs and stop them from coming into our country. You know, President Trump has been working hard to make sure that he's delivering on what he promised the American people, and that's to make America safe again. In doing so, we have gone out and found over 1,500 known and suspected terrorists.
All right, so we're following this live event of former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem because we're really not quite sure what's going on here. We know that the President of the United States came out and said that she is out of a job and that he is announcing that the senator of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, will become the next Secretary of Homeland Security. Clearly, he's got to go through a confirmation process. The president said in his tweet that that should be happening March 31st, 2026. But we're watching this live event. It was scheduled to start at 2, but then the news came out that he was firing the DHS secretary. So we're standing by to see if she takes questions, if she acknowledges the fact that she has lost her job. She's at this event in Nashville, the Sergeant Benevolent Association Major Cities Conference. She's talking about the impact of DHS and local law enforcement. And she even said, here's what we want to do for you. Here's how DHS wants to support local law enforcement so we can all work together. So she's still talking as if she is DHS Secretary. And Pierre Thomas, Chief Justice Correspondent, let me bring you into this, because is she still the Secretary of DHS until the confirmation hearing happens and Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin replaces her? Can you sort of explain how this will work?
Precisely. The Truth Social post appears to suggest that she is still the current Homeland Security Secretary, pending the senator being put in the job, should he be confirmed. So there's a reference to the notion that she will be Homeland Security Secretary through the end of this month. So that means that you have this period of time where she's the Homeland Security Secretary, a bit of a lame duck, if you will. Lots of critical things going on, lots of critical decisions to be made. But it sounds like the White House and a number of other people will be very much heavily involved in the day-to-day while this transition takes place, because clearly the president was not comfortable or happy with the way she had been performing, hence the move.
You know, you think of, okay, she's taking questions now, Pierre. Let's listen in.
I've always wanted to ask her this. You sure can.
Secretary.
Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, thank you.
Given our current state of Chicago, we have no talk about the sanctuary law enforcement. More of a targeted response. The person about the great Detention, extreme enforcement. A lot of people, they just, when you go after, for lack of a better term, moderating. It's kind of like they've been there 30 years, they're not causing trouble as opposed to criminal.
Right.
Well, this might sound horrible.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I don't know if you guys heard that question, but he talked about targeted enforcement. And Rob was saying how it's much more effective in a lot of, especially these sanctuary cities, where we can work on targeting those individuals who have a criminal history besides their legal status that may be in violation of their visa or work permit, but that we work on those and make sure we're going out and doing that with the local law enforcement as much as we possibly can. And that is something that we are going to continue to do, and make sure that we're focusing and prioritizing those individuals and make sure that we're addressing the public safety threats there. Thank you. Yes, sir. Okay, let me visit with him about it. That'd be great. Well, we're talking about doing some other tax benefits for other, so that may be something we could wrap into that conversation. Great idea. Perfect. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Secretary. My name is Chris Galligan. I'm the Vice President of San Francisco Police Officers Association. First of all, I just want to say thank you for recognizing major cities and all of our police unions here across the nation. It means a great deal for you to be here today, so thank you for that. My question, local officers have increasingly been on the front lines of Homeland Security, yet we are still funded and staffed like a city responsibility, not a national one. How will DHS ensure local agencies aren't carrying federal priorities on local budgets and with local staffing?
That's what I was wondering, Cake. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing?
So you maybe have some challenges in San Francisco just because of your state laws and local laws that may, although you've got a mayor that works with us very well.
It's great.
He probably doesn't want me to talk about it a lot, actually, but he has been cooperative, and we have great conversations and talk quite often. And many times in doing law enforcement in your city, if the federal task force is coming in, it's more preferable for the FBI to lead and the Department of Homeland Security to come in supportive roles, which is what we've done, and that works very well in your city. Thank you for your focus there too. I think the city is seeing some dramatic improvements under this leadership. When you talk about funding, we have tied a lot of our funding that we have for enforcement this year and prioritized over $1.5 billion towards 287G agreements. So we've reimbursed departments that have an agreement, or a county or a sheriff, with funding them on overtime or on benefits, some of the other things that we can do. We've also, on the jail model, obviously reimbursed per beds. If you don't have the opportunity to participate in 287G, I think your best options for funding alternatives would be through some grants that we have at the department. We have specific grants towards terrorism grants that you can do, some security grants, and there's hazard mitigation grants that are in Homeland Security, safety grants through FEMA that would be available. So maybe what I'll do is I will forward those grant opportunities to all of you so that you can share them with your departments and have that opportunity. We also have some grants specifically targeted towards special operations. So if you've got some special operations that fit into that category, we could get you some funding that way.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes. Hi, Craig. Yes.
One police officer and one sergeant called Border Patrol for assistance, and then after that happened, he tried to fire them for asking Border Patrol to come assist them.
Oh, shoot.
Ain't nobody gonna
Most recently, they just suspended both officers for 30 days without pay.
The Border Patrol?
No, Detroit
those
police.
officers in Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit
Okay.
police. So the one incident was the female of the house called because the husband was trying to break into the house. When the officers got there, he had a bad passport and a bad social security card. So they called Border Patrol for assistance. They ended up taking him to jail because he had a warrant outside the city of Detroit.
Yes.
The second one was a traffic stop. The fingerprint reader wasn't working, so they called for them to bring theirs over there, and the person had a warrant also. So both
We're going to continue to follow this live event with the former Secretary of the DHS, Kristi Noem, and we say former because if you've been watching our breaking news coverage, the President of the United States did put out on Truth Social just prior to her beginning her comments here in Nashville to all the police unions represented at this conference in Nashville, where she's talking about DHS and law enforcement and local cooperation. The president made the announcement that he was relieving her of duties and replacing her if confirmed, which apparently that is going to take place at the end of March.
Well, she didn't comment on it right there, guys. I thought she was, but she didn't. But she most definitely responded right here.
Secretary Kristi Noem speaking on her ouster from the position of secretary there in the Department of Homeland Security. Of course, we just heard remarks from her there, but this is her first statement that she is now putting out on social media, saying this: "Thank you, President Trump, for appointing me as the special envoy for the Shield of Americas." Secretary Rubio and Secretary of War saying that they are incredible leaders, and I look forward to working with them closely to dismantle cartels that have poured drugs into our nation and killed our children and grandchildren. The Western Hemisphere is absolutely critical for U.S. security. In this new role, I will build on the partnerships and national security expertise I forged over the last 13 months as the Secretary of Homeland Security. We have made historic accomplishments at the Department of Homeland Security to make America safe again. We delivered the most secure border in American history. 3 million illegal aliens have left the United States. We have located 145,000 children. FEMA delivered disaster relief at a 100% faster rate. We ushered in the golden age of travel, save the American taxpayer $13 billion and revitalize the U.S. Coast Guard. And so that's the full statement that you're able to see there on your screen as Secretary Noem is now speaking and reacting there publicly after being removed as the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Of course, we do know that this does come with other elements as well. Taking you out to this live vantage point that we have outside of the office of Senator Mullen. He, the Republican from Oklahoma, has since been named by President Trump as the person that he would like to replace Kristi Noem in this position.
Mullen is replacing
kind of
Kristi
talk
Noem,
about all of this, what we're seeing here, there on Capitol Hill, I'd like to bring into the conversation now political analyst Brian.
Can we please take time to get those likes up, guys? Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the three dots, hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel, guys. As we watch, you know, basically Mullen, Senator Mullen, is going to be taking over for Kristi Noem as head of Homeland Security.
Brian, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox.
My pleasure, Christina. Another busy day on Capitol Hill and in Washington, D.C. and around the world.
Absolutely. These storylines that we've been following here, they're out of our nation's capital. It was interesting today. We were hearing mumblings behind the scenes that this potentially was on the verge of happening. Ultimately, that announcement was made just over an hour ago by President Trump, saying that he's effectively pulling Kristi Noem. We do know that it's been also a very busy week for her, having to testify there on Capitol Hill. I first want to get your reaction to her statement that she was able to put out on her X account, now speaking publicly for the first time on the new position, sort of framing it that way, it seems like, talking about what she will be stepping into in the next her next venture.
Well, to me, it was sort of a face-saving statement that the president had reassigned her, as it were. But I don't think anybody in Washington is fooled by the fact that she was let go by the president as head of DHS. And the testimony earlier in the week in Congress.
All right, so that was the statement that basically Noem put out, you know, after being removed as head of Homeland Security. Now, the Democrats, like I told y'all, has been on her top as well. Hakeem Jeffries went live and basically said, "Good riddance. We'll holler at you." Let's check out what he had to say.
Good afternoon, everyone. Fundamentally, politics is about the management of public money. How do the people who are entrusted with serving in the House, in the Senate, and within an administration prioritize the expenditure of taxpayer dollars? And our view as Democrats is that taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for the American people. In an environment where the cost of living is way too high, which is why Democrats are going to continue to focus on driving down the high cost of living, fixing our broken healthcare system, and making sure that people in this country who work hard and play by the rules aren't simply surviving, but they can thrive. Because far too many people in this country are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. One of the challenges that we have in this country is that Republicans have decided to manage the public's money recklessly. Taxpayer dollars should be used to make your life more affordable. Instead, Republicans have decided to actually use it to enact massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors. That's what the one big ugly bill was all about. Republicans have decided to use taxpayer dollars to create a $75 billion slush fund to unleash mass and poorly trained, out-of-control ICE agents on American communities, brutalizing and in some cases killing American citizens and violently targeting law-abiding immigrant families. That's how Republicans have chosen to use the taxpayer dollars of the American people to manage public money. And now, of course, we've seen Republicans, led by Donald Trump, plunging America into another endless conflict in the Middle East, spending billions of dollars to bomb Iran, but they can't find a dime to make it more affordable for the American people to go see a doctor when they need one. Can't find a dime to make it easier for Americans who are working hard to purchase their first home. And they can't find a dime to lower the grocery bills of the American people. And instead, of course, the reckless Trump tariffs have increased costs on everyday Americans by thousands of dollars per year. Democrats are committed. This is the fundamental fight at this moment, to making sure that we jealously guard the resources of the American people and we use it to make life better for everyday Americans, not actually make things worse, which is what Donald Trump and the Republicans have done. Questions?
Mr. Leader.
Kristi Noem,
Thank you.
There they go, right in there with Kristi
in the
Noem.
House of Representatives. He's been in the Senate for a couple of years now. He is somebody who's tight with the president. Is this an upgrade, in your opinion?
Well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it, and we'll see what he has to say when and if there.
What was your impression of serving with him in the House?
I don't have any comment right now on what's to come. Let's focus on what's taking place right now. Kristi Noem is gone. Good riddance. She was a disaster, and House Democrats made something very clear several weeks ago. We said either Kristi Noem is fired or she's going to be impeached.
Does that change the ICE conversation?
And Kristi Noem has been fired, consistent with what we have demanded on behalf of the American people. But let me also make clear, a change in personnel is not sufficient. We need a change in policy. And that has to be bold, dramatic, transformational, and meaningful. And we've laid out 10 different demands standing on the side of the American people, including but not limited to judicial warrants, a ban on racial profiling, a prohibition on ICE targeting sensitive locations like schools, hospitals, polling sites, and houses of worship. A requirement that ICE agents are actually vetted through criminal background checks and actually trained. The implementation of a prohibition on the excessive use of force, which we've seen horrifically been unleashed on the American people, and of course, a requirement that ICE agents who break the law can be criminally investigated by state and local authorities. These are the type of policy changes that are going to be necessary to move us forward to ensure that ICE actually conducts itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country. That's our fundamental demand. Every other law enforcement agency in the country. So, of course, this change in personnel is welcome. Kristi Noem is a disgrace. And we made clear what was going to happen. One way or the other. Could happen the easy way or the hard way. He's chosen the easy way. But now we still have work that needs to be done in terms of the policy changes.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Congressman Tony Gonzalez said yesterday on a podcast that he did have an affair with a late staffer who later died by suicide. At this point, would you support expulsion for Congressman Gonzalez now that he's admitted that?
He's violated the laws. If an expulsion resolution were presented before the House of Representatives, I would, of course, support it.
Would House Democrats investigate Kristi Noem as an ex-cabinet secretary?
We haven't had that conversation yet. But what we do know, as was gloriously exposed by Congressman Joe Neguse, she's a living, breathing article of impeachment in terms of the abuse of power and the corruption that Kristi Noem has engaged in. And we need to make sure that every single taxpayer dollar is accounted for, that she was allowed to brazenly abuse, if not personally benefit from. And so there will be continuing efforts led by Benny Thompson and Robert Garcia and Jamie Raskin and members of those committees to make sure that we are looking out for the appropriate expenditure of taxpayer dollars. And wherever that leads, it leads.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. After votes today, you all will go on a week-long recess. Can you provide any visibility to the American people about where the negotiation stands? Republicans and the White House continue to say that they've moved on some of the demands that you have made. However, right now it just seems to be a debate between, you say that they haven't moved enough, they say we're moving in their direction. What can you say to the American people over the next week or so, what they can expect while you all are out?
Well, it's unfortunate that the Trump administration and Republicans have decided that they would rather shut down FEMA, shut down the Coast Guard, and shut down TSA than dramatically reform ICE and get ICE under control, which is what the American people want to see happen. And this is a step in the direction of acknowledging that things at the Department of Homeland Security were broken. They had a corrupt political hack who was running DHS. Shame on every Republican senator who put her in that position when they knew she was unqualified. Now, in terms of the negotiation, we remain ready, willing, and able to talk with anyone, anytime, any place in a position of significance within the administration if they are prepared to make sure that ICE conducts itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country and stops brutalizing and killing American citizens and law-abiding immigrant families.
Really quickly, the last time, a few weeks ago, the administration took action, on TSA, global entry, and what some say was an attempt to put pressure on Democrats to move in their direction. Do you expect, if the shutdown continues to go on, that the administration will again try different ways to exert leverage and bring you all to the table to end the shutdown?
Trump administration is deeply unpopular. They failed again and again and again, and they're on the run, governmentally and electorally. And our view is simple. Abandon your my way or the highway approach. You're not intimidating anybody. They tried to break America within the first 100 days. And they failed to do it because the American people have held firm. And as Democrats in the Congress, we got to continue to forcefully push back. We'll do that in the courts, and we certainly will do that in communities all across the nation. And we're winning the hearts and minds of the American people. We just saw that again in Texas and in Arkansas. And we'll continue to see that all the way through November. Any normal administration would dramatically change course. But these extremists, continue to try to hang on to whatever mandate they claim that they had in the aftermath of the general election, even though the American people view them as a complete and total failure. But as long as they approach things with a my way or the highway mentality, then we're not going to be able to make any meaningful progress in a bipartisan manner on behalf of the American people. Thanks.
Thank you. Markwayne Mullin is one of Trump's most loyal allies in the Senate. Do you think, how can you work with someone like him as you're still doing negotiations on DHS funding? And further, what do you want to see from the next DHS secretary to be able to work with them?
But what we have to do right now is deal with what's in front of us, which is DHS has been shut down by Republicans because of their refusal to actually agree to a set of bold and meaningful but common sense demands that are designed to get ICE under control. The Senate is going to handle their process, and we'll see what happens in terms of the confirmation hearings, in terms of the individual meetings that Senator Markwayne Mullin has with the senators who are going to be making a decision as to whether they should confirm him or not. And then we'll have more to say once that unfolds. But at the moment, it's not like Kristi Noem was the one who was involved in negotiating anything. She was a corrupt lackey.
Hakeem Jeffries on the firing of Kristi Noem. Can we get 20 more likes, guys? Get the likes up past 200, guys. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, and click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new.
So we were dealing with the White House before, and we're going to continue to deal with the White House at this point in terms of whether there's going to be movement or not. I will tell you that Pam Bondi, she's got to go, and Stephen Miller's got to go. And we're going to approach those two toxic individuals with the same intensity that has now led to the termination of Kristi Noem.
You're saying with Mullen though that he has to get confirmed. Can't he just work on an acting capacity, and that would mean that you have to work with him in the meantime?
No.
Thank you. Obviously, there are two votes this afternoon on the War Powers Resolution. Some of your members are seemingly wavering. How do you expect it to go? And if it does not move forward, will you then support the alternate that was also brought up?
Go across that bridge when we get to it. Right now, we're focused on securing strong Democratic support for this War Powers Resolution. We believe that Donald Trump needed to get authorization for engaging in a war. He admits it's a war. The so-called Secretary of Defense, the most unqualified person to ever hold that position as well, he acknowledges that it's a war. And the Constitution is not ambiguous on this subject. And there's a reason. The framers were very clear. They wanted to make sure that the people's house, that the most direct representatives of the American people were the ones who could weigh in on issues of war and peace, so that we could press an administration as to whether they have a plan. What's the justification for sending American men and women into a theater of war, risking their lives? As we've seen, we've already tragically lost 6 heroic servicemen and women. And we mourn for them, and we pray for their families. And we don't want to see any more American lives lost in Trump's war of choice. And so we're going to continue to engage with members over the next few hours in advance of the vote. There is going to be strong Democratic support and bipartisan support. And we're hoping that just a handful of additional Republicans beyond the 2 who have publicly said they're with us will do the right thing on behalf of the people that they are privileged to represent, so we can enact this War Powers Resolution. George Washington said in his farewell speech to the nation, and I've never forgotten this upon reading it, I wasn't there at the time, that the Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. That was his farewell message, final public speech to this new nation. The Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. That means everybody. There's no Trump exclusion. There's no wannabe king exclusion. There's no autocratic exclusion in the Constitution. It's sacredly obligatory upon all. And we just need our Republican colleagues to get some guts at this moment. As Rand Paul said yesterday, get some guts and start acting like you're part of a separate and co-equal branch of government.
On the subject of Iran, the administration and Republicans have said there may be a need for a supplemental funding request. What is House Democratic leadership position on a potential supplemental request?
Yeah, we haven't had any conversation about the possibility of a supplemental funding request, because at the moment, the administration can't even provide a justification for why we're in this massive conflict and war in the Middle East right now. They have not bothered to make that case to the American people. And their explanations are all over the place in terms of what prompted Donald Trump's decision. In fact, most recently, the White House has said Donald Trump had a feeling. Can you believe that? A feeling. You send American men and...
He's talking about the battle in Iran, guys.
...and women into war with a high likelihood of them dying based on Donald Trump's feeling? That's insanity to me. There's no evidence that there was an imminent threat to the United States of America. No evidence that they had reconstituted their nuclear program. No evidence that they have intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach our shores. And so, before we even get to the consideration of a supplemental request, let's have the debate about how taxpayer dollars are being wasted right now. Billions spent to bomb the Middle East, triggering an all-out war that now involves more than a dozen countries, as opposed to actually Republicans bothering to find a dime to lower grocery prices or make life better for the American people. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so that was Hakeem Jeffries, guys, basically on how he feels about the firing of Kristi Noem, where he says good riddance and says that Trump had no valuable reason to want to go to Iran and start, a battle, guys. All right, so we got an exclusive interview with Iran's foreign minister, guys, where he's talking about Iran's course of action after the attack by America, guys. Check this out.
On the air with breaking news right now, our exclusive interview with Iran's foreign minister who joined us from Tehran, which just wrapped up moments ago. The foreign minister answering questions about why Iran is attacking its neighbors in the Middle East and whether they're willing to negotiate with the U.S. But I started by asking him who exactly is in charge of Iran right now after its supreme leader was killed over the weekend. Minister Arachi, we thank you for your time. Who is in charge of Iran right now?
Well, thank you, Tom, for having me in your program. Well, I think the system is working very well. We have lost the supreme leader, but according to our constitution, there is now a council which takes charge of his duties, and then the president, the cabinet, ministers, everybody is in its position. So the system is working very well, and everybody, is in charge.
We know that there's been a council. We know that there's been a council to fulfill the duties of the supreme leader, but we also know that there's a selection process in play to pick the next Ayatollah. There are reports that Ayatollah Khamenei's son is a front runner. Is that true?
Well, actually, I have don't exact information. There are many rumors around, but we have to wait for the assembly of experts to choose the new supreme leader.
I also asked the foreign minister about Iranian ships being sunk and whether he believes Iran can win this war. Here's what he had to say. The world saw your battleship sunk in the Indian Ocean. Dozens of Iranian sailors died. Your response was, quote, "Mark my words, the U.S. will come to bitterly regret the precedent it has set." So what is Iran going to do? And at this point, given the state of your military right now, what can you do?
Well, first of all, that was a training training ship, which was invited by the Indian Navy to take part in an exercise. And they went there as their guests, the Indians guests, and they, did participate in that exercise, and they were in their way back home, and the ship was unarmed. So attacking an unarmed ship full of, training officers and sailors is, a war crime, I have to say.
What type of battleship, Minister, excuse me, but what type of military would allow a battleship into the ocean with no weapons on board?
Well, because it was, the goal was not, their aim was not going to war. They went for an exercise, which was arranged by the Indian Navy. There are so many other guests who went there and they, took part in a parade. And, everything was a peaceful, training course or a peaceful training process. So they didn't need, weapons. They actually went to that mission long before the war started. And when I said that the U.S. would regret that, I meant that they have, the U.S. have unfortunately set a precedent which is, against the international law and would actually damage the whole concept of international, law of seas. When an unarmed, ship is attacked with no reason, and a big number of sailors are killed without taking part in any battle, that would set a precedent. And
the U.S. The U.S. says it controls the skies, that Iran's ballistic missile attacks have dropped more than 80%. The U.S. has hit over 2,000 Iranian targets. The Pentagon says America is winning decisively. Do you think they're wrong?
Well, I think, now 6 days after the war, it is clear that the U.S. Has failed to achieve its main goal, which was a clean, rapid victory. They failed to achieve that, and now they are trying to justify why they did attack us, and they have, presented so many different reasons, but none of them worked. And now they are talking about, Plan B, and I believe that, their Plan B would be even a bigger failure. So they are controlling our sky. But at the moment,
Minister, you're right. Minister, your supreme leader was killed. Your top military leaders were killed. Your military installations have been bombed. How can you call that a failure?
Well, then what they have achieved? What was their goal? They came here for a regime change, perhaps. They came here for a rapid victory, so they can, control everything. But they have failed. The system is working. The commanders have been replaced, and the supreme leader is going to be replaced soon, according to the procedures set by the Constitution. So everything is in order. Yes, we have been targeted, but we have also attacked so many targets in Israel, and so many targets belongs to the Americans, their assets, their bases, their installations in the region. And, they have not been able to prevent those attacks. Our missiles are still working. Our missiles are still in place and hitting their targets in a very precise manner. So,
Minister, can Iran win this war? If I can ask you, can Iran win this war, and what does winning look like for Iran?
I don't think they can win against America. That's my opinion. What y'all think?
Well, there is no winner in this war. Our win is to be able to resist against, their illegal, goals. And this is what we have done so far. So they have failed to achieve their goals, and we have been able to resist against them, to stand against the most powerful army of the world, as they claim, together with, Israelis, who are also claim to have the big army. Two of them are nuclear armed, but still the people of Iran, the armed forces of Iran have been able to stand firm against them. They couldn't, stop us firing missiles to Israel and to other destinations. We are doing very well, and they have not been able to stop us. So this is our win. Yeah, and I don't think they can be a winner at the end of the day.
Minister, explain to us and to the world, really, Iran has chosen to attack at least 10 other countries, many of them your Arab neighbors. None of them were involved in this war. Why are you attacking your Muslim neighbors during the holy month of Ramadan?
Oh, please don't mistake. We have not attacked our neighbors. We have not attacked Muslim countries. We have attacked Americans' targets and Americans' bases, Americans' installations, which are unfortunately located in the soils of our neighbors. So we have made it clear for them. I have been in touch with their foreign ministers, and I have explained that we are not targeting you. We have no problem with you. We are only targeting the American installations and American bases. And the reason is obvious.
But Minister, Iran is hitting civilian targets, striking hotels, high-rise apartments, airports in many of these countries. Those are not military targets.
Well, no, we have targeted very well. The Americans are. Maybe there have been some collateral damages, as it is in every war. Look, more than 70,000 people were killed in Gaza by Israelis, and Israeli army called all of them collateral damage. So yes, there is the possibility of collateral damages in this situation as well. This is what we have warned everybody in the region beforehand, that if the U.S. attack us, we have no way but to attack their installations, which are in your territories, and then everything may go out of hand, and the war would become a disaster for the whole region. This is what we have warned, and many others have warned, and many Americans have also warned the U.S. administration do not repeat the same mistake. They have done it before in our region, and this is what they have done. This war is not our war. This is not our choice. This is a war of choice by the United States.
Iran's foreign minister also weighed in about whether his country would be open to a ceasefire with the U.S. Here's what he told me. Right now, you're saying Iran does not want a ceasefire.
We are not asking for a ceasefire. And we don't see any reason why we should negotiate with the U.S. When we negotiated with them twice, and every time they attacked us at the middle of negotiations. So there is no request for a ceasefire by us, and there is no request for the negotiation with the U.S. From us. We have never sent any messages to them.
Minister, you said that Iran cannot reach U.S. soil, right? The American homeland with the weapons that you have right now. Is there any other way that Americans should be concerned that Iran could attack the American homeland?
No, they have enough bases around us. Why we should go further than that? They have enough soldiers. They have enough, military assets, and they have enough military bases, military installations. So we don't need to go beyond that.
The Strait of Hormuz hasn't been closed, but the threat of its closure has disrupted the international economy. If this war continues, will Iran try to close the Strait of Hormuz?
But they have not closed it. It is the ships and tankers who don't try to pass through to cross the strait because they are, concerned about being hit by either side. So we have no intention to close it right now. But as the war continues, we will consider every scenario. For the time being, we have not done yet. And but the strait is, almost empty of ships. And
let's take time to hit that like button, guys. Double tap that screen as we hear from the Iranian foreign minister, guys, on the plans of Iran, whether they're going to retaliate against their own or America. They most definitely say they are taking target at American targets, guys. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you are new, guys.
Tankers, because of their concern.
In this war, are international oil tankers potential targets for Iran?
No, why they should be a goal for us?
Iran threatened tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has already threatened them to set them afire.
No, we have not threatened them. They are concerned themselves, and they don't use the Strait of Hormuz because of the concerns they have to be hit by either side.
Is Iran privately talking to U.S. officials right now through back channels?
No.
There's no communication with you and Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner?
No, not after Thursday that we met last time. We met last Thursday. We negotiated for almost 7 hours. They were so happy when they left the negotiation table because we were able to make significant progress, as the Omani foreign minister said in his statement, and he checked his statement with both sides, and both sides agreed with the term he used, and we were made really significant progress. They were happy when they left, but I don't know what happened after they left.
And I asked Iran's foreign minister about whether his country is prepared for a possible ground invasion from American troops. Watch this. President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
So you're saying that Iran is ready and willing to take on the U.S. military if there were to be ground troops?
Well, we were ready for this war even more than the previous war. So you can see, the quality of our missiles, how much they are upgraded after the last war, because we learned lots of lessons. And we are prepared for any other eventuality, even, a ground invasion. So our soldiers are prepared for any scenario. When I said we are waiting for them, it didn't mean that we are waiting for continuation of the war. No, but we have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, any possibility, and we know that we can handle that.
Are your allies Russia and China helping you?
Well, they are supporting us politically and otherwise.
Are they supporting you militarily?
Well, military cooperation between Iran and Russia is not a secret. You know, we have worked with each other in the past, and that has continued. And will continue. I guess.
And they're actively helping you in this war?
Well, they have always helped us.
So I'm gonna understand that to mean yes, that they are actively assisting you in this war?
Well, I'm not going to give the details of our cooperation with other countries right in the middle of the war.
For more, I want to bring in our chief international correspondent, Keir Simmons. He joins us from the region in Dubai. And Keir, he made a lot of news there, that they haven't picked a leader yet, that they're not interested in a ceasefire. And he really tried to justify why Iran is attacking its neighbors. You're in one of those countries right now that is under attack. Does it seem like they're targeting only military assets?
It doesn't, Tom, and that's not my view. That's the view of diplomats in this region and diplomats around the world. I will just say it was a calm, cool and collected performance. But, for example, they've had to delay the funeral of Ayatollah Khamenei. They would not want to do that if everything was fine in Iran. To your question, Tom, for example, the Prime Minister of Qatar, after a call with Foreign Minister Araghchi, said that he categorically rejects Iran's claim that they are only targeting sites that are legitimate, saying they're targeting, for example, the airport. But even then, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, after a call with Foreign Minister Araghchi, made a statement that did condemn the attacks by the US and Israel, but then goes on to say that Iran should take seriously the legitimate concerns of neighboring countries, that China was confident it would. That is, from the China perspective, a kind of
Will China and Russia get involved, guys?
way of saying that Iran needs to be careful about what it's doing in this region. We've had bombardment after bombardment after bombardment. The only reason those bombardments have not done as much damage as they could is because of the air defenses in this region.
Keir Simmons, we thank you. Stand by for us. I want to go to our senior national security correspondent, Courtney Kuby, who covers the Pentagon for us. Courtney, the foreign minister there had a lot to say if there is some type of boots on the ground, if there is an invasion by U.S. troops there, posturing at times, but sending a clear message to the White House.
Now, America said we weren't going to put any boots on the ground. But now they're saying stuff about boots on the ground. What's going on?
Yeah, I was fascinated by a number of different things he said there, but from a U.S. military perspective, two things really stood out. One was what you just pointed out, Tom, and that's the idea of the Iranian military being ready and waiting for U.S. boots on the ground. Of course, this has been a huge point of contention and discussion here in the U.S., even before the strikes began on Saturday morning. And that is because we have heard differing messages from the Trump administration about the possibility that U.S. troops could be on the ground there at some point as part of this war in Iran. President Trump not ruling it out, and the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, also not ruling out that possibility. The real question is, why would U.S. troops be needed if, in fact, they're able to accomplish most of these military strikes from the air? What would you need them for? And Tom, the answer would be if, in fact, the U.S. is trying to inflict some sort of regime change.
Shout out to Ken for being a member for 16 months.
There, it would be tough to do that from the air. And then the other big question is the nuclear program. What exactly, how will there be any kind of assurance about exactly what happens at the facilities if the United States military decides to hit them again? We've not seen that so far as part of this current campaign. The other thing I want to point out that I was really fascinated by was his comments to you about the Strait of Hormuz and denying that the Iranians are interested in doing anything in the Strait of Hormuz. Of course, it would have a huge impact on global commerce. It already is, though, as travel through that narrow choke point has already depleted, been decreased so much in the last several days. You can see it there. At some points, it's as narrow as about 12 miles across, with normally a huge amount of tankers and commercial shipping going through that region. It is desperately down right now from where it was. The only reason that was fascinating to me, Tom, was his argument that they would not do anything to impede the Strait of Hormuz. I would just remember or mine it. I would recall 2019 when, in fact, Iran did use mines, limpet mines. Those are little magnetic mines on the side of two tankers, blowing both of them up, disabling them. It was in the Gulf of Oman. This would not be unheard of for the Iranians to lash out using mines in that region, Tom.
Yeah, and previously in the last two sort of conflicts, Iran saying they were going to stop the bombings, that they were done. Here saying there is no ceasefire, they're not interested in a ceasefire. I want to go straight to the White House with senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake. Garrett, I also asked him about an Axios report that's out today saying that President Trump wants to personally be involved. He says that will never happen. Personally involved in the selection of the next Iranian leader. He says that will never happen, that the Iranian people will select their leader.
Yeah, Tom, and when I combine that story with your interview, it's even less clear to me how this war might end, because what I heard from the foreign minister there also was him saying that a victory for the Iranians would be to resist, to essentially survive, and to keep fighting back for as long as possible. He also said there are no conversations actively happening between the Iranians and the U.S. administration in any capacity, nor would there be, because that trust is now gone, that the U.S. has now struck Iran twice while negotiations were already in place. To me, that essentially leaves two possibilities here, that the U.S. continues to do this operation until the President Trump feels like the military goals have been reached. That's the, kind of the broad consensus statement from the administration right now, what they're trying to do, or that this does become a far bloodier regime change war. You heard the foreign minister almost welcome the possibility of U.S. ground troops. And that's the other way these Middle Eastern wars tend to go, with the U.S. getting bogged down on the ground. What the goals are here now for the United States, getting clarity from President Trump in response to this interview, is going to be very, very important, because the sort of all the signs are here for how this could be messier and far longer of a conflict than the 4 to 5 weeks that the president has said is the goal.
And the foreign minister also told me that the last two times they were negotiating with the Trump administration, they've been bombed. So they don't see any reason why to negotiate anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And from their perspective, that's certainly understandable. It's also not clear what they could negotiate away at this point. I mean, the stated goals of the United States here are to destroy their Navy, destroy their ability to project power, their missile program, and their nuclear program. What would the Iranians be able to show the American government to say that we have done this, that they have done this satisfactorily? The odds for a negotiated solution to this war, a negotiated end to this war, are getting smaller.
Trump said there is no negotiation. Basically, that Iran needs to lose with no stipulations.
By the hour, I think, Tom.
All right, Garrett, Courtney, and Keir, we thank you for all your reporting and your analysis of the interview. We're going to have much more on the interview. You can find it right now on NBCnews.com. We asked him about a variety of issues, including the school that was hit in Iran as well, along with how long the Iran military can withstand the constant bombardment, how many missiles they have left. It was a very long interview, 35 to 40 minutes. Again, we're going to put it out there online at NBCnews.com. This is going to conclude this NBC News special report.
All right, so we heard from the Iranian foreign minister, guys. Now, remember, I asked y'all, would China and Russia get involved? Well, Putin has already put his hands off in it. Check this out. Hold on, let me get to it.
Decapitating Iran's leadership, destroying.
Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman, former director of the CIA's Middle East Division. Dan, great to have you with us. I guess, your headline take on where things stand right now, and then we do want to get into this issue of what Russia is providing in terms of intelligence, but your overall picture as you watch this activity, particularly in Lebanon today.
Hey guys, we need to get the likes up to 300. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. Get the likes up as we hear about what Russia, is planning to do or has done. It says Russia reportedly providing Iran intel to target U.S. forces, guys, meaning Putin got his hands all in it.
So we are seeing widening of the war, and Hezbollah predictably has launched attacks on Israel in support of Iran. But really the story of this war is the extraordinary tactical successes from the United States military, decapitating Iran's leadership, destroying their ballistic missile inventory and their drones. those efforts are ongoing. We own the skies. And we've seen an incredible fusion of our intelligence capabilities so we can find and fix these targets and then finish them with precision strikes. Now, where we go from here that we'll all be tracking, the Israelis used to like to say that they would mow the lawn when they had to mount these counterterrorism operations that did not result in eliminating the threat permanently. If we do not arrive at some sort of a permanent solution here, either a change in the regime in Iran or a change in their behavior, then President Trump is right. We would have to look at coming back and doing this again, which is why I think the president wants to induce Iran to make a deal. That's what this has always been about from the very beginning when we deployed our military assets to the region. It's about Iran coming to the table in good faith with no intent to rebuild a nuclear program or have a ballistic missile capability or proxy terrorist network that can threaten the region and beyond.
And just so everybody can see, this is what President Trump said to Reuters. We are going to have to choose that person along with Iran. We're going to have to choose that person. He also had a Truth Social post today saying that unconditional surrender was what is going to be demanded here. Dan, because of your experience with Russia, could we please talk about this Washington Post headline? Russia is providing Iran intelligence to target U.S. forces, officials say. This might not become as a surprise to you, but it will be very unwelcome news, I imagine, at the Oval Office.
We need 40 more likes. Double tap that screen, guys.
It's old news. The Trump administration is well aware of this, going back to the first Trump administration when the Russian intelligence was providing the Taliban with intelligence to kill our soldiers there. That's just what they do. That's their currency in return for receiving Iranian drones and having Iranians create these, build these drone factories in Russia. The Russians provide tactical and strategic intelligence on their main enemy, the United States. Now, it hasn't really had a whole lot of effect. We're doing pretty well in spite of whatever Russian intelligence is making its way to Tehran. There was no early warning intelligence that would have saved Ayatollah Khamenei's life. So I wouldn't put too much stock in the value of this, but it just shows us that this is the axis of dictatorships, Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, that are all working against U.S. national interests.
So Dan, you know, that it plays right into this language that we see in a lot of the media's reporting of this story, that this is a very expanding theater. But when I looked this morning, you know, I think in all of these attacks on the Gulf states, which have been a big curiosity point for a lot of people covering this story, and certainly a lot of the analysts, I think that there have been 5 people who've been killed in all of these attacks on the Gulf state areas. Now, there's been infrastructure damage, but what's your assessment of how successful they are at pulling this off?
Yeah, I mean, Iran has launched reportedly 1,000 drones at the UAE, but you're right. The results have been far from devastating, and we are taking the fight to the enemy. That's why we're not going to let up until we finish the job. That's the way we stop Iran, by eliminating all these stocks of their drones and missiles.
Okay, so we are about to go into the weekend, Dan, and from your point of view, what will you be paying attention to and looking for?
Well, I'm looking at the efforts on part of the United States and Israel continuing to degrade Iran's air defenses. They're just about eliminated. Striking ballistic missile facilities. I'm looking at Iran's defense industrial base. Once you destroy all the missiles, you want to destroy the factories that are making them, and continued decapitation of Iran's leadership. I think there are a few more leaders in Iran from the IRGC and maybe Ayatollah Khamenei's son who have bullseyes on their backs.
Dan Hoffman, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being.
All right, we need 30 more likes, guys. Double tap that screen if you have not. So Putin is most definitely giving the drop on U.S. forces, guys. All right, let's go over here and find out the latest in breaking, you know, and what's going on as we speak in Iran right now.
Our air defenders are operating at the...
As it says that our Israel unleashes massive strikes on Tehran in new phase of war, guys.
And
let's go.
And expanding
Israel's acting up.
Campaign in the Middle East, U.S. forces escalating their strikes on Iranian air defenses and missile sites as commanders say Operation Epic
20 more likes, guys. Double tap that screen.
Hard. Good morning. I'm Dana Perino. Bill's off today. Hi, Martha. Thank you.
Hi there, Dana. Great to be with you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, and this, of course, is America's Newsroom, and there's so much coming in. We have new video that shows the United States military striking and setting fire to an Iranian drone carrier ship, roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. And meanwhile, the Israeli military ramping up their pressure as well. They're pounding Beirut at this hour, ramping up operations against Hezbollah in its strongholds across Lebanon. And the IDF says that it's moving to its next phase amid this ongoing conflict with Iran, shifting the focus to eliminating Iran's missile program once and for all, as they begin the 15th wave of strikes in Tehran.
And CENTCOM says the U.S. and America's closest ally in the Middle East are weakening Iran's power.
Our combined joint forces have relentlessly destroyed Iran's air defenses over the past few days, and they've continued hunting for more systems to kill. Our air defenders are operating at the very top of their game. We are fighting to win. Through combined U.S. and Israeli combat power, we will continue decimating Iran's ability to project power outside its borders.
Fox team coverage, Jackie Heinrich standing by at the White House, and House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford is here. But first, let's go to Trey Yanks live in Tel Aviv. Hi, Trey.
Sandra, Dana, good morning. Just last night.
This is what's currently taking place in Iran right now, guys. Double tap that screen if you have not. Hit that like button or click the three dots, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribing to the channel if you're new. Yeah, this is the latest and breaking of updates. It's probably like 10 minutes old of what's going on in Iran, guys.
The Israelis launched a massive strike against the Iranian capital of Tehran. Those strikes have continued even as recently as last hour. And we have some new video here showing the Israelis targeting the compound underground that Iran's former supreme leader had planned to hide in if any sort of attack were to take place against his country. The Israeli Air Force used over 50 fighter jets and 100 munitions to strike this underground bunker. And a senior Israeli official telling Fox News that when the supreme leader was killed, he was actually above ground. He never made it to the bunker that they destroyed overnight. And this official says the result was exactly what planners had hoped for. Khamenei stayed above ground, and the opening strike of Operation Epic Fury found him right there. Now, today, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is holding security consultations with his cabinet to determine the next steps in phase 2 of this operation. And again, we expect these strikes to expand and continue in the days ahead. The Iranians are still launching their attacks against Israel. Overnight, ballistic missiles soared through the skies of this country. You can see in some Fox News video here, one of those missiles overshooting its target and slamming into the Mediterranean Sea. This happened a number of times, and sirens sounding once again this morning across Tel Aviv. Now, the Israelis say they are dismantling Iran's ballistic missile launchers, hitting another 6 of those launchers overnight. And Israel's chief of staff had this to say earlier today about the ongoing operation.
I am in continuous contact with my American counterparts, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States, General Dan Kane, and the commander of CENTCOM, Admiral Brad Cooper. We are fighting based on shared interests and values. In this war, shoulder to shoulder, they are true friends. Through coordinated action, we are stripping the regime of its military capabilities and bringing it to strategic isolation and a point of weakness in which it has never been before.
The Israelis are looking east, but they're also looking north to the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. They're striking Beirut hard overnight and into this morning. You could see that smoke earlier rising from the skyline in the Dakhia neighborhood in the southern part of Beirut. We expect the Israeli strikes to expand against Hezbollah in the days ahead as residents are reacting to their displacement of southern Beirut.
They threatened the Daya area, so we packed our things and left. Everyone left Daya. Now we're living a tragic life here, displaced. It's a miserable life. You know what it's like.
And today, Iran's leadership is speaking out about the ongoing war. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian saying in a statement on X, some countries have initiated efforts for mediation. Our response to them is clear. We are committed to lasting peace in the region, but have not the slightest hesitation in defending the dignity and authority of our country. The audience for mediation should be those who, by underestimating the Iranian people, ignited the fire of provocation. Now, Iran's president did not speak about his country's ballistic missile program or nuclear aspirations. Dana, Martha?
Trey, I wanted to have you tell our audience more about what you learned about the overnight strike on Khamenei's bunker in Tehran.
Really interesting information coming into Fox News from a senior Israeli official indicating there was a coordinated deception campaign against the Iranians. And actually on the Friday night into Saturday that Operation Epic Fury began, the Israelis sent home their top commanders for Shabbat dinner with their families. They were posting coordinated messages with the Americans and even a statement from President Trump, all to try to deceive Iranian leadership into thinking that no operation was about to begin. And this is why they believe Iran's supreme leader was above ground when the planes made their way to Iran. And they say even once those planes were entering Iranian airspace, the inner circle of the Ayatollah didn't think to get him underground, and it allowed this strike to take place that took out the supreme leader and also around 40 plus top Iranian officials. Martha, Dana?
Incredible, Trey. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you in a little bit.
Thank you, Trey. Let's go to Jackie Heinrich over at the White House. Morning, Jackie.
Good morning to you guys. President Trump just laid down the terms of this war. He posted to Truth Social, there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. After that, and the selection of a great and acceptable leader or leaders, we and many of our wonderful and brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Meantime, as this toils on, the U.S. is all in on annihilating the regime. Today, leaders from big defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, RTX, and L3 Harris are expected to meet with President Trump to talk about ramping up weapons production, especially missile interceptors. The press secretary Caroline Leavitt just told me this meeting was previously scheduled, indicating it's not a direct response to the war in Iran. She said, quote, the U.S. military has more than enough munitions, ammo, and weapons stockpiles to continue demolishing the Iranian regime and finish Operation Epic Fury no matter how long it lasts. Nevertheless, President Trump has always been intensely focused on strengthening our military, which is why this meeting with defense contractors was scheduled weeks ago. The president continues to call on these companies to more speedily build American-made weapons, which are the absolute best in the world. But the need to increase weapons production is compounded by this war in Iran and open questions about how long it could last, along with new reporting from the Washington Post this morning that Russia is providing Iran with targeting information on U.S. warships and aircraft to attack U.S. forces. But President Trump said yesterday the U.S. is rapidly achieving its goals with Iran's Navy, Air Force, and communications infrastructure decimated.
Drawing more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships.
The president said Iran is calling, looking to make a deal, to which he said it's a little late for that, but he called on all IRGC, military, and police to lay down their arms and Iranian diplomats to request asylum for a chance at immunity. Otherwise, he says, death is guaranteed. Dana and Martha.
Jackie, thank you.
For more on this, let's bring in Republican Congressman Rick Crawford of Arkansas. He's the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. We're about a week in, and Hegseth and Crawford said this last night.
What Iran is doing by targeting allied countries that would otherwise want to stay out of this, they've actually pulled them into the American orbit.
What I will point out is this is now the 12th country that Iran has attacked. 12 countries, and it goes right back to the Secretary's point. Those 12 countries are none too happy, and I look forward to working with all the partners who are willing to join us in this.
You know, it's hard to ask you things that you can't talk about, which are classified, and so I'm curious if you could characterize for us the questions you are asking at this moment we are a week in, and all these other countries in the Gulf have been attacked by Iran, and now they are needing our help, and they are helping us as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. What you would have expected would have been that the Iranians would try to engender some level of support from the Gulf state neighbors. Instead, they attacked them. That doesn't make any sense. My question was, and I think what we're saying is a potential for the complete degradation of command and control, so that you have pockets here and there that are kind of acting unilaterally without any kind of cohesive leadership that may be leading to these strikes without any consideration. So they're just not communicating. I think these attacks have so degraded their ability to communicate and exercise centralized command and control that you're seeing these kinds of things continue. And I can't verify that's the case, but it seems like that might be what's contributing to these random attacks. And it's not just limited to the Gulf states, because it's my understanding that they launched an attack on others in the region. It's like they're just lashing out at every border nation that they have. I really don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. It's not having the desired effect. It's really driving those nations into our camp.
In the meantime, the Department of Homeland Security remains unfunded, and this was Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader of the House, yesterday.
A change in personnel is not sufficient. We need a change in policy. And that has to be bold, dramatic, transformational, and meaningful. At the moment, it's not like Kristi Noem was the one who was involved in negotiating anything. She was a corrupt lackey. So we were dealing with the White House before, and we're going to continue to deal with the White House at this point.
So now we are in hostilities with Iran, and Department of Homeland Security remains partially unfunded. And it just seems like what Hakeem Jeffries is talking about is, frankly, unreasonable. Like, the president is never going to agree to some of those things. Is there any sort of meeting of the minds happening behind the scenes we should know about?
Well, we've put forward some really reasonable suggestions. For example, body cameras. Yeah, who doesn't want body cams? Let's do that. Even the officers say, let's have body cams. It makes sense. It actually protects them as much as it does the general public. So yeah, let's do that. No, that's not good enough. Then they want to demask. Well, I've got a suggestion on identifying officers without giving away personal identifying information that's not tied to their badge number, that doesn't divulge their personal information or their address, so that they can protect their families. Nope, that's not good enough. Got to demask. These are the same people that were forcing everybody to wear a mask not long ago, but now they're trying to demask ICE agents. And don't forget about this attack that took place down in Austin. Now, I'm not suggesting that was directly handled by or instigated by or ordered by Iran or their proxies. But when you show up to the bar wearing a Property of Allah sweatshirt and you've got an Iranian flag in your truck, that's a pretty good indication who you're acting on whose behalf you're acting. And so we need to be conscious of the fact that we have a high threat level here in the United States, and now it's not the time to try to score political points on national security.
Rick Crawford, thank you. I know you're very busy. We appreciate you joining us today as we enter into the weekend. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest.
All right, guys. So that's pretty much where we're at right now with the situation taking place in Iran, guys. Trump says there's no surrender. Basically, the only way is for America to win, and hey, Iran just got to basically accept that, guys. We most definitely went over the firing of Kristi Noem. They got her right up out of there. Yesterday, I was telling y'all that they were calling for her resignation or she would be impeached. And it looked like Trump made the best decision for him, which was getting rid of Kristi Noem, guys. What else was it? All right, she most definitely responded. She got a different job at a different part, in Trump's cabinet, basically, but she is not the Secretary of Home Defense anymore. We most definitely seen that Russia got their hands in the Iranian situation. We heard Hakeem Jeffries speak on Kristi Noem getting fired. He said, good riddance, guys. So as everything continues to unfold right in front of our eyes, I will most definitely keep you guys up to date. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. I enjoyed y'all. If you haven't hit the like button, double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button. Hold on. I asked y'all a question in the poll. Basically, I asked, is Trump wrong for firing Kristi Noem? Let's see what y'all said. Wait for it to post in the chat so I can tell y'all the answer to the question, guys. Let's see. Out of 2.3K votes, 72% of the people said no, Trump is not wrong. And 28% said yes, Trump is wrong. So majority wins. It looked like Trump did nothing wrong by firing Kristi Noem, according to my chat. I most definitely appreciate everybody that participated. Once again, if you haven't hit that like button, double tap that screen. It helps out the channel, guys. Or you can click the three dots, hit that thumbs up. It most definitely helps out the channel as well. And most definitely, if you like this brand of entertainment, subscribe to the channel if you are new, guys. That's my time. Shout out to all the old subscribers as well as the new subscribers. Shout out to my members, the old ones as well as the new ones. And most definitely shout out to my moderators. Y'all make this worth doing. Thank y'all for keeping this chat running smooth, guys. If I don't see y'all over the weekend, I most definitely see y'all Monday. Make sure y'all have y'all notification bells turned on to all so you don't miss anything when everything news goes live, guys. And with that being said, I'm gonna make my grand exit. Sidewalk gang, checking out. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be safe. I'm gone.